Hope you're having an awesome Ignite conference. Awesome. Thank you for being here. I'm thrilled to see the crowd. So hopefully we are going to give you all the information you need to make the update experience smooth and seamless. I'm Suma Sagnegowda. I'm a group program manager in the OS platform team, owning the deployment and flighting technologies. I also have here with me Steve, who's a PM on the same team. And together, we're going to talk about all of the investments we've made to make the deployment and servicing experience smooth and seamless. How many of you attended a similar talk last year? A few of you, OK. Just like last year, what we're going to talk about is the different phases of a deployment or an update workflow and what capabilities we've added in those phases to make the experience seamless for you and your end users. So let's begin. This is what we call the shock and awe slide, and I just put it here in context. You might have seen this slide in a few other presentations at Ignite here. Right now, we have about 900 million active Windows 10 users, Windows 10 devices, and we update them very regularly. We have billions of features updates and billions of quality updates. But the key thing that I wanted to point out is one of the things that we hear from you is about compatibility, compatibility of your apps and devices with feature updates, if you will. And what you see here is the humongous number of apps and device combinations and drivers that we have updated through the process of Windows 10 since we released on July 2015. So we do take compatibility seriously and ensure that these things work for you so you don't have issues when you do updates in your environment. So why stay current and why do you keep the devices up to date? The main thing is Windows 10 gets better with each update. This is just a list of features and capabilities we've added in the platform since 1709. And these are just the key features. So this isn't even the complete list. And we, in addition to this, we make reliability and performance fixes. We do security enhancement. We provide productivity features. And most importantly for this talk, we also continue to improve the update stack. I think you all remember the WAS journey when you began. It was rocky. We did have problems with the update process. And over the years, we've actually added more capabilities in the platform to make it smooth and seamless. So getting the latest feature update and quality update is what makes you ensure you have a seamless experience for you and your end users. So we did talk to IT pros for the update of 1809, and we wanted to understand how their update process went. This spanned across small businesses and commercial customers. And what I've been hearing from the IT pros and also from you here this year at Ignite that we have actually made the process better compared to when we started out. So somebody told me yesterday that it is buttery smooth. I know it is not all that completely great, and we are going to talk to you more about what more we have done in order to make this better. So just a little bit of stats on the good. About 90% of the people going to 1809 said they had a good experience. We've also seen more people perform in-place upgrades than we've seen in the past. About 48% of the people did in-place upgrades going to 1809. Can I see a show of hands on how many of you do in-place upgrades? Oh, that's awesome. This is much better than what we saw last year at Ignite. And we also are seeing 70% moving from 1803 to 1809. But of course, there's more things that we can do. One of the key feedbacks we've gotten is, can you reduce the disruption caused by updates? And I'm going to talk to you about that. People complain about driver issues, and also that we don't have a streamlined way of acquiring drivers and language packs. So I'm going to touch on some of these, as well as other investments that we have done to make this better. So how have we evolved our investments? Last year, we focused on specific pieces of content, like feature on demand and language pack, and what we have done to make that better. And this year, we are going to give you a comprehensive view of how to manage all of the content that comes down with an update in a seamless way. Download size and bandwidth has been a big issue that you've raised to us. We did significant improvements with 1809 to reduce the download sizes. And we also gave you some tools to help with bandwidth. And we are going to provide a more comprehensive bandwidth management solution today that you can leverage. We continue to reduce user disruption. We've been on the journey to reduce the offline time needed by updates, and we've provided more capabilities now so you can leverage this in your environment versus just when it was connected to Windows Update. And we've also done more work in terms of ensuring anytime there is an issue with update, diagnosing that is easy and it's seamless, and also that you have safety nets so your productivity is not impaired. And last but not least, we've added more innovations into the workflow that you can leverage yourself in your environment to make the deployment experience better as well. So let's dig in. I do have a lot of content, so we'll try and get through this as quickly as possible. We also have a few demos that Steve is going to show you, and we'll leave some room for questions at the end. Just to kind of phase out the process of update, I'm going to talk through in 3 main pillars. One is simplifying the distribution of content. So this is the first step in an update process. How do you get all of the content needed by an update? The second, once you've gotten the content, is how do you minimize the user disruption? And third, if something goes bad, what can you do to fix it? And I'm going to talk about the innovations that I just mentioned as well. So let's dig in. Simplifying the distribution of the OS content. When we talk about feature updates and quality updates, what do we actually mean? And what is all of the content that you need to get in your environment? I think this has been a puzzle for you, so we decided we will actually give you a view into what we mean when we say get all of the content for feature update and quality update. At the bottom, that's the base media. That's actually the basic feature update content. On top of that, we have fixes for setup itself or Winari. This constitutes everything that you get during a feature update. And this is what makes sure that the update experience is better. You've heard about LCU or quality updates, but we also have fixes to the servicing stack itself. So the combining these two together ensures that you have a good quality update experience. So this whole set of content is what we call as the base media, or the basic content that you need to get in order to ensure you have a good update experience. And I'll show you momentarily where you can get all of this content from and the complexity that was there. But before that, in addition to this, there is also some optional content that we deliver. So this is things which are not already in the base media. This is things like feature on demand or language pack or drivers fixes. And these are needed to ensure the device experience is better after an update. So where do you get all of this content from? And as you see here, depending upon the workflow you were using in the past, you had to go get this content from multiple different places, from VLSC, from Dynamic Update, from Windows Update, and then you had to assemble this yourself to ensure that you have a good update experience. So this essentially was the complexity. If users were connected to Woo, we streamlined this somewhat for them. But for you, managing this in your environment, this was a big issue, because you had to assemble the content. You had to really know what to get from where and do it in the right sequence so the right update experience happens. So we took it upon ourselves to streamline this, and this is what is UUP, which is called the Unified Update Platform. So you don't have to worry about the different pieces of content, and we can bring this down to you based on your needs without you having to worry about it. So what is Unified Update Platform? This is the one-stop shop for all your update content. This is how you get your feature updates. This is how you stay secure. And in order to ensure we preserve language packs and feature on demand, this is what helps you as well. So how do you get the benefit of this? There's 2 ways. One is Windows Update or Windows Update for Business. And this capability has been there since 1809. When you connect it to Windows Update, we manage this for you. We ensure the right content was brought down. And Windows Update for Business provides you the controls needed as well to ensure that you can manage the updates in the way you want. For example, you can set the right deployment timing or deferrals. You can ensure that you can set the active hours, or you can manage the deployment in terms of pause and install. We've also added advanced controls, and this is in preview right now, to manage your feature update controls even more. So choose a version and stay put on that so you don't get the updates delivered to you automatically by Windows Update. You can expedite quality updates. And Another key one is we've made it possible so you can get the driver fixes directly from Windows Update while still managing the rest of it on-prem. So this is one of the biggest things we heard last Ignite is it's very difficult to get drivers on the on-prem environment, so we've made it possible with co-management so you can benefit from this. This is definitely in preview, so if you want to take advantage of this, do sign up for the preview. So this is if you connect to the cloud. But of course, several of you are on on-prem environments. So can I see a show of hands? How many of you use Windows Update for Business? A few. So for the rest of you, you also want to get the benefit of these capabilities. So we brought the UUP capabilities on-prem to Config Manager, WSS, whatever environment you use to manage the updates. We started a preview of this early this year, and we actually did run into some hiccups and got some feedback. As a result of this, we went back to go ahead and fix these issues. It was mainly around the amount of content we needed to download. And it's back in preview again. And people have been using it, and the folks in the preview have actually been really happy with the update experience with UUP. And we'll actually show you a demo of how this works as well. So in terms of the availability, it's in private preview now, going to public preview early next year and release soon after that. And at the end of the deck, I'll have information on how you can sign up for this preview. But for those of you who still use media upgrades through your task sequencing, how many of you still do media-based upgrades? Oh, not bad, just a few of you. So what we provided here is this capability called dynamic update. So if you remember from a couple of slides ago, there was the base media. So this is what comes with the media. But all of the other fixes aren't there in that base media because sometimes we do those fixes after the media has been released. And this is where dynamic update comes in. And for those of you still using media upgrades, we have provided the capability to get all of those fixes, get the feature on demand and language packs, and preserve them through dynamic update. The only gotcha is you have to go to the internet, or the device has to go to the internet to get this content. So we've provided switches so you can turn off dynamic update if you want, or only turn on selective content like drivers or quality updates, or FODs and language packs. And for those of you who really don't want to go to the internet at all, we have a partial script that you can use to patch the media. Steve did a talk yesterday where he walked through how that could be done, and we also posted a blog yesterday which walks you through that process. So you can leverage that to patch the media before you do the updates. So now that you have all of the content, the next big thing is how do you ensure you get this in a bandwidth-friendly manner? And this is where delivery optimization comes in, and this is our solution for comprehensive bandwidth management for cloud and hybrid world. Delivery optimization essentially means that you can get the content from peer devices in your network versus having all of the devices phone home to get the content. And of course, this was released last year, and the feedback that we heard is this doesn't still give you all of the bandwidth optimization you need. And even with the perfect configuration, I think you only get about 70% peering. So we've introduced a new capability, which is available now at Ignite, called Microsoft Connected Cache. So this is a capability where you can have an in-network cache of the Windows Update content. This works in conjunction with delivery optimization, and we only bring down the content onto the cache that your devices need versus every content that's there on Windows Update. So you don't have to worry about pulling down a lot of content. And it works in scenarios where peer-to-peer doesn't work as well. And we've made it possible that this actually works with Config Manager, so you can set it up on a Config Manager distribution point, or you can leverage the private preview and take benefit of it by hosting it in Azure. So delivery optimization plus the connected cache gives you the comprehensive bandwidth management solution that you need to manage updates in a bandwidth-friendly manner. Are these some good sets of investments? I see some nods. Next up is how do you minimize user disruption when you actually do an update? And now that you have gotten all the content down, you have to distribute this update in your environment and ensures that the users are not disrupted when the update is done. I think some of you might have seen this graph before. We've been on a quest to reduce the offline time needed for updates. Offline time is the time that is when you actually see those spinning dots, when you can't do anything on your machine, when the machine reboots to take an update, that's the offline time. And in 1703, this was about 82 minutes or 90 minutes on an average. So you really had to take the machine down for more than an hour to do the update. And of course, this was a huge disruption to your end users. So we've been on a quest to actually move more of the update activity online, that is when doing it when the user is using the machine. And so when we actually do the restart to take the update, the amount of time that's needed is minimized. So as you've seen from this graph, we've actually brought down the offline time to about 16 minutes. This is in 20H1. This release is with insiders right now. The release which is with retail, it's about 28 minutes offline time. The graph that I wanted to show in comparison is what we see from the retail rollout. And you see the median time at 28 minutes there. But in some of the newer hardware, the offline time is reduced to about 17 minutes. And in some cases, we have seen machines take the update in just like 5 to 8 minutes. So we've actually done a significant improvement here. We monitor data from telemetry and ensure that anything that is coming in the way of making update offline time increase, we go at it, we fix it, so we can actually keep this time down. I should hear some claps. Of course, I talked about this last year too, but the thing that was available with this offline time reduction was only available when you connected to Windows Update. And of course, since I saw not many of you connect to Windows Update to take these updates, this wasn't as beneficial for you. So what we have done is added in capability and control, so you can actually control this with your on-prem environment as well. So mainly there is like 2 switches that we've added. One is called skip finalize, and essentially what you do is leverage this so you can stage the update behind the scenes. So just like I talked about doing things online when the user is using the machine, you can leverage this so you can stage the update yourself as well. So this happens behind the scenes when the user is not using the machine, and any restart of the machine actually doesn't commit the update, so you're still in control of that. And you can call finalize when you really want to reboot the machine to take the update. So doing this means you only have the offline time of the 16 minutes that I showed that is needed in order to set your maintenance window to take the update versus the 2 hours that you were used to in the past. So I do recommend leveraging this to make sure that you can take the benefit of all of the offline time improvements that we've done. The other thing we also brought in is, I don't know how many of you know, there used to be this menu item called update and shutdown. What should have happened with that is you should have taken the update and then shut down, but it used to shut down and do the update when the user logged onto the machine. So we have actually fixed that too. So update and shut down. So actually update and shut down does what it says versus disrupting your user. So if you're connected to Windows Update or Windows Update for Business, the other thing we do is try to do this update activity when the user is not there. The basic capability that we have provided is we can wake the devices up in the night, mainly when it's connected to AC, not on battery, and do the download and install at that time. So that way the update happens when the user is asleep, and the next day morning when they come in, they're ready to use the machine without any problems. So ensuring that we try to take the update activity away from when the user is using the machine. Sorry? We have an orchestrator, which actually wakes up the machine to do the update. So logging on after an update feels like an unlock. So what does this mean? So we did all of this work to take the update away from when the user is on the machine to do it at night. But the next day morning, you come and you are ready to do your work, and you log in. And it actually says that it'll take several minutes for the device to log you in. And we actually show these screens. We sometimes call them the rainbow screens. And it goes on and on for about 4 to 5 minutes, pretty much giving the same message for every update that we have done. And you have to sit and watch it while you actually are waiting to get back into work. So we decided to do some work here with the automatic restart sign-in, where we actually do all of the activities that are happening behind these blue screens to actually happen at night as well. So that way, mostly app registrations is what happens at this time. And so this also happens when the update happens at night. So the next day morning when you come and log in, you actually log in right to your desktop without actually any delay. So of course, there are some basic security requirements that are needed to enable this, things like TPM 2.0, Secure Boot, and BitLocker. And we have a very lengthy blog which talks through everything that we have done and how we actually leverage the credentials to do the registration in the blog. You can actually take a look at it after by leveraging that barcode. So is this all talk, or does this actually work? So in order to show you that whatever I talked about so far actually works, I'm going to call Steve up on stage to show you a demo of Update with UUP.
Thank you, Suma. And thank you, everyone, for joining, and good morning. Let's take a look at UUP on-prem in action. So this is what the UUP feature update will look like in the Config Manager console. So you can identify them with the UUP tag, which is on the far right. I know it's a little hard to read, but that's also how I've filtered these. So these feature updates can be deployed essentially the same as any other software update. And one thing to note is also the titles. So these are feature updates for 1809, and they also have the month in there so you know exactly where you're patched. So Suma mentioned earlier, UUP on-prem is currently in private preview, and some of the benefits on this. We're going to show a quick demo of moving from 1709 to 1809, looking at language packs and features on demand and making sure that those migrate correctly. So here we're on the down-level OS, the starting OS, and this is 1709. So I want to take a look at what we have installed here for languages. So if I go into settings, you can see I've started with the English media, but I've also added French and Spanish in. So these are been added on after. Now if I go into optional features, what we'll also see are the language experience features on demand. So English is there, but we also have in here French and Spanish as well, OCR, text-to-speech, and so forth. Now just to show that I'm not cheating, we're going to bring up DISM here real quick and look at the international settings. And that should zoom in to make it a little bit easier to read. And so when I launch that, you'll see the same thing. So we've got ENUS in there as well as French and Spanish. Okay, so let's get started with the install. So we'll click on Install here and within Software Center and proceed with installing the feature update. And so right now the feature update's installing. The user in this case can still use the device. So this is all going back to what Suma mentioned, taking a lot of the in-place upgrade tasks and moving them when the user is online and doing that before rebooting the PC. So we've sped this up a little bit, and now the user's in control to restart. So we'll go ahead and hit restart here. And we'll boot into the new OS. Now, for some of you, this is not, we haven't gotten the offline time down to 5 seconds, so I want to make sure everybody understands. We trimmed the video there. I really wish it was that fast. But here we basically are in 1809, and we launched Edge, and you saw the October update. We'll bring up the version and take a look there. And so here we've got 1809. So we've gone over to the other side. Now let's see where we are with our languages and our features on demand. So if we bring DISM back up, take a look at the international settings. All right, so we got English as expected, French and Spanish are there. So basically, seamlessly, the languages got brought over with the software update. If we take a look at optional features or languages, so they're there as expected. Looks just like it did in 1709. And now we'll take a look at the optional features and see if the features on demand have been preserved. And it looks like they have. So we had English, but now we've also kept French and Spanish. And any other features on demand that were there, media player and so forth. So in summary, UEP on-prem, currently in private preview. This was a 1709 to 1809 upgrade with basically working the way it should, working the way it should work with consumers, features on demand and language packs migrating seamlessly.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, so now that we've downloaded the content, we've done the update, what happens when things go bad? We do ensure everything possible that things do not go bad, but always things unexpected happens. So what can you do to correcting that unexpected? I'm going to talk to you about 3 capabilities that we have in the platform. One is called rollback. Somebody told me this is the best feature for update that we have. I don't know if I was totally happy with it, but it actually is a capability where if things go bad with the update, we get you back to a working state so the machine is not bricked. And I'm going to show you exactly what we do here. The second is you have rollback or there is install failures. How do you diagnose it so you can actually update the device? And we have capabilities for this as well. And last but not the least, we have also provided capabilities to uninstall updates remotely, both feature update and quality update. And this is needed when you're going to go on the other side with the update. But say an app or a device that you really need doesn't work and you cannot wait for it to get debugged, you can actually remotely roll back to a working version so you can continue to be productive. So these are all the safety nets that we have. So in case there is anything unexpected, you still are in a working state. So rollback, this is the capability of the update stack where if we see that the update is going to fail, we get you back to the old working version of the OS. And we clean up everything that we had done until that point, so you shouldn't see any difference at all. We look at this data continuously through our flighting and retail intelligent rollouts to continue to reduce the number of rollback rates that we have. And as you see there, release over release, we've really reduced the rollback rate significantly. And we ensure that we work internally with the teams within Windows as well as with our partners to do the right fixes so you don't see these rollback rates when you get the operating system. So what can you do to reduce the rollback rates on your own? We refresh media with these fixes. So I do recommend if you're using media, get the refresh media. If you're getting all of the content from Windows Update or UUP on-prem, this is automatically included in there. And the significant reason we see the rollbacks is usually issues with the drivers or sometimes the AV software. So ensuring these are up to date will ensure that you do not have rollbacks on your side. So you've either had an install failure or rollback. So what do you do now? How do you debug to actually get to a working state and get the update going? We introduced this capability last year called Setup Diag. How many of you know about Setup Diag? A few. Okay, so Setup Diag is a tool that we introduced last year that you can download in order to diagnose update failures. But the significant feedback we got was now you have to download yet another tool to deploy onto the machines, to extract the logs, and go figure out what needs to be done. And you wanted us to make this more seamless and integrated. So we listened to your feedback, and now Setup Diag is actually integrated with Setup. So any errors or any failures that we find, it is actually included in the registry or the logs, so you can just leverage that to do your reporting. Is that good? We're also working with Config Manager to integrate this within that single pane of glass as well. So if you're using Config Manager, it should automatically be available. If you're using any other management tool, you can leverage the registry and log output to script it yourself to do your reporting. We continue to listen to feedback on this, so we've added more rules to detect more failures. We've made the processing faster. And we've also added capabilities so you can look at other aspects of the deployment workflow like recovery and see any errors from that through the same diagnostic logs. And lastly, the capability to uninstall. This was already in 1809, but I've kept it here for completeness if you weren't exposed to this. So this is the capability where you can uninstall either a feature update or a quality update remotely through CSP or a DISM. So you end up on the other side and say an app doesn't work and you want to get back to a working state, you can leverage these capabilities to just uninstall the update. So the user is continuing to be productive while you go figure out the problem on the other side. And as I said, you can leverage this through CSP or DISM. So irrespective of the management tool you use, you can leverage this capability. So now that we went through the 3 basic steps of update, of acquiring content, ensuring there is no disruption, and figuring out what you can do when things go bad, let's talk about a few other innovations that we've done which you can leverage. We added a capability in 1903 or 19H1 called reserved storage or storage reserve. How many of you know about this? OK, few of you. So this is a capability that we added to ensure that we can do hands-free updates. So what do I mean by that? We used to see on low-footprint devices, when we did an update, we did not have enough space to complete the update, and so update would choke. And the result of it was for you to kind of go clean up the machine, delete user files, so ensure that we can complete the update. And I know some of you did your own reservation of space to make the updates happen. So what we have done is we've actually now reserved storage for the update to succeed successfully and hands-free. And in order to ensure that we are not taking away user space, even on low-footprint devices, we actually reduce the Windows OS footprint. We have about 5.5 GB reserved in hard storage. So this is something that is only used by update. And we use this for download and install. And we also have what is called as the soft reserve. So this is a place where update can bleed into if it needs more space. But this is the space where Windows uses its system files, things like page file, Hyper file, or even temporary internet files. So by doing this reserve, we ensure that Windows works reliably as well. And when the machine goes offline, we can leverage this space for updates, so you don't need to go clean up more space. So this is kind of providing the best of both worlds, if you will. And this was available, and you can actually leverage it through Windows Update and the orchestration that is available there. And it was only available with clean installs of 1903. So we have added controls within the platform, so you can leverage this even on an update scenario. So there are DISM controls available to enable and disable the reserve. So even in an update, you can actually leverage this capability to enable the reserve. This is not available for consumers. Or if you're using your own management system, if you're connected to Woo, we do the orchestration of how the reserve is used. But if you're not connected to Windows Update, you can leverage these flags to do your own orchestration. So you can enable the reserve before an update, and then disable it, or disable the reserve before the update and enable it after that. So you can leverage this so you can make this seamless within your environment, and there is no dead space on the machine, so you can actually enable and disable it to ensure that the workflow is seamless. The second capability that we introduced with the 20H1 release, which is with Insiders right now, is this capability called Cloud Recovery. I'm sure you all know reset and recovery. The capability that we had so far in the platform is the on-disk recovery, if you will, which is an imageless reinstall of Windows. So we just leverage the files which is installed on the machine to reconstruct and recover you to a good state. You can access this from settings, or you can do this remotely. You can keep user files, or you can remove everything. So all of this capability, I think, was available since Windows 8 or early Windows 10. But one of the things that we've added is this capability to recover Windows from the cloud or Windows Update. And you would leverage this in the scenarios where the files on the machine are so corrupted that we cannot reconstruct it. So you can connect to the cloud and actually get Windows from there, and Windows is recovered through that process. And it is integrated into the same experiences that you would do the on-device recovery as well. To show how this works, I'm going to call upon Steve, so he can actually show you how this works with the 20H1 build.
Okay, thanks, Suma. Let's take a look at cloud recovery in action. So if we start here from Windows settings, go into Update and Security, then select on Recovery, we'll get started by pressing the Get Started button. So the first prompt is not new. This is where I'll have a choice of whether I want to reset the device but keep my data or my files, or remove everything. So I'm going to go ahead and select Remove Everything. So this next prompt is new with 20H1. You still have the option to do the reset using the local OS files, which is currently highlighted. But what's new is now the ability to go to the cloud, go to Windows Update, and download the content. And so we inform the user if they go this route. We give an initial estimate of about 4 gigabytes of what we'd have to download. So let's go ahead and click the cloud download. And one more summary here, and we'll click Next. So at this point, we are going to start to download the content, I think. Is what features on demand were installed on the OS, and based on probably a limited number of those, the actual download size dropped from 4 gig down to 2.83. There's also some prereqs that we're doing there as well. We're making sure that the device is not on battery, that we have connectivity to Windows Update. And at that point now, we're really at the last dialogue, and the user, once they hit reset, that's the last time that we'll ask them for input. So we'll go ahead and select Reset. Now the download starts. So once this finishes, we're going to reboot and reboot into the recovery environment, WinRE. So at this phase, this is when we apply the OS image that we just downloaded. We're also now applying the optional features and language packs to this new OS. We're also gathering drivers from the down-level OS to bring them forward. And some other steps that are going on. We'll switch the OS folder from the old to the new, and once that's finished, we'll actually download the content that we just brought down. And so now we're going to the second reboot here. This will take a little bit. The entire end-to-end for this demo, if we were doing it real time, was about 25 minutes. Okay, so now we're going to do one additional reboot. At this point now, we're doing applying of the drivers, and now we've booted into, about to boot into the first experience. And there we go. So now we're back at the UBI screens, ready to go with the PC reset, either recovered from, let's say, OS corruption. That's cloud recovery.
Cool. Thank you, Steve. You thought I was done. No, there's just a little bit more. No update talk will be complete without talking about the current update that we have released, which is Windows 10 version 1909. And I think you might have already heard, if you've been listening to some of the sessions, is this is a slightly different update than the regular feature updates that we release. What's different? This has a scope set of features. So we mainly address feedback from you, some quality and performance improvements, and not all of the big list of features that we typically add into a feature update. Because it is a scope set of release, we are able to bring this to you using the servicing technology or the quality updates that you're already used to every month. So we can actually bring this down and install it as part of the LCU versus doing a full feature update. And the other bonus that you get the 30-month of servicing that we've actually promised with the fall releases by installing 1909. And how do you get it? If you're on 1809, then you can actually get this in a similar way. There is no change in the process, so it will actually do the same upgrade process that I walked you through the rest of the presentation, and it will do a full feature update. But if you are on 1903, then this comes down as a quality update. How many of you are already on 1903? Not bad. So for those of you who are already on 1903, this is just like installing a quality update. The LCU brings down all of the fixes. And as far as the features are concerned, you can download the enablement package to enable those features, and that also provides you the 30-month servicing. So this is the latest Windows version 1909 that you can, and it shows you the process. And we also have a detailed theater session which talks through all of the details of how we made this happen. So you can actually listen to the theater session to get more information. I think it happened yesterday, but there is a recording available. So the key takeaways: sign up for the previews that I talked about. Here's the links to sign up for UUP on-prem as well as Microsoft Connected Cache. Ensure you're using all of the controls we've provided for offline time reduction as well as storage reserve in your workflows. And last but not least, if you're doing upgrades, leverage dynamic updates so you can get a seamless experience. We have a ton of servicing sessions this week at Ignite. Definitely catch the remaining few that are available. We're also available for an Ask the Experts tomorrow. There is a panel where we'll answer all your tough questions. You can definitely attend that. We have interactive sessions where we want to hear your feedback. So if you have more feedback to provide us on the update process, catch us on these interactive sessions. And definitely come to our booth. And if you get a sticker because you attended this session, you can exchange that for an awesome giveaway at our booth. And we all staff the booth regularly, so you can come and talk to us about any questions you have. And do not forget to fill out evaluations. I think we have a couple of minutes for questions. We'll be here at the end as well to answer more questions, or at the booth to answer any of your questions that you have. Thank you.